Hello, hello, beautiful. Welcome to day one of the Emergency Medical Folder Challenge. I am so glad that you're here with me. All right. Well, as you hop on, do me a favor and let me know who you are and where you're joining me from. Pop over into the comments so I can see and say hello to you, see who all is here. So, those that comment area, the chat area, please feel free to use it throughout this whole live session because this is definitely something where I wanted to be able to answer any questions you might have, make sure that you are completely prepared for everything that you need for this 3-day challenge and beyond, because we are building our emergency medical folder this week. So the emergency medical folder, this is something that I will talk about what it is and how it's used. We'll also cover a little bit more about how to upgrade it and make it something that's even more useful, make it more your own and unique to you, customized. Sorry. I had a random live going on in the background. It popped on, but I'm glad that you're here. I will talk about how to customize it and make it your own, and also the next steps along this whole path for you. And if you have questions, then I'm absolutely here to answer your questions for you. Now, throughout the challenge, you can also check out the challenge schedule page. So if there's anything that you missed at all, then it's all going to be on that challenge schedule page for you. So you can catch up on anything that you missed during these 3 days. And I wanted to say hi really quickly in the chat area. Hello to Arnett. Hello, Arnett from Hawaii. Glad that you're here. And we've got Carla's here. Hi, Carla. Welcome, welcome. Awesome. Well, yeah, as you hop on, make sure to let me know who you are and where you're joining me from. But let's dive in, all right, and talk about our emergency medical folder. So first off, if you've not already joined the challenge and registered, make sure to hop over to SusannaK.com and register for the challenge. Oh, sorry. Suddenly got hit by needing more oxygen. And do me a favor. Tell me in the comments if you already have your emergency medical folder set up. Is this second time that you're doing the challenge or more than that? Are you just touching it up and upgrading it? Or is this your first time building your emergency medical folder? I would love to find that out. And over in the comments, I want to say hello really quickly to Marcia. Hi, Marcia from Kansas. And we've got Kim from Colorado. Welcome. Brandy's here from Florida, same state as me, and Melody from Virginia. Welcome. And this is Kim's first time building an emergency medical folder. Yay, that's awesome. And Lady too, she says this is her first time as well. Yay, Carla's first time. Oh, that makes me so happy. All these first timers, I love it. Welcome, Karen from Utah. Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, that tells me a little bit more about what types of information to make sure to give you with some extra special first timers here. So let's first talk about, what is the emergency medical folder and how is it used? So the emergency medical folder, if you are registered for the challenge, then you already know that I gave you the free templates to print out, and these are fillable, so you can type in to the PDF and save it on your computer, or you can just print it out and handwrite in it. Either way, I tend to handwrite in mine a lot of the times. But these are all of the different template pages where you're just going to go through and answer the questions, and it's going to have all of your most important medical information for you and your loved ones, and you'll be combining it into a folder. Now, this folder is used for doctor's appointments. It's a great thing to just grab and bring with you to the doctor. The nurses are always impressed. You look like a super rock star organized person. But this way you'll have all of your medication information, all the important information that you might need right with you at the doctor's appointment. But even more importantly, you can grab this and go if you have to go to the hospital, or if one of your loved ones in your household has to go to the hospital. or if first responders have to come and help you or your loved one. Even if you can't communicate, they will then be able to find this and have all of the most important medical information for you. So this folder right here is extremely important to keep you and your loved ones safe. Hopefully you never need it for any of those emergencies, but if you do, it's there. So this, the emergency medical folder, if you have the Spark Life Binder, if you already own, oh, it's right back there. If you already own the Spark Life Binder, then you know this emergency medical folder came with your Spark Life Binder. And this is one of the first steps that I always have people work on when I set up a paper system with them. So we make sure that we handle their mail and incoming papers so we don't add to the problem. And we make sure that the most important, essential life-saving information is organized in one place. We want to make sure that we do that before we do anything else with your papers, right? Then the next steps involve the Spark Life Binder, which the Spark Life Binder is where you keep all of the other important information about your life so that you and your loved ones can get your hands on anything that you need like that, which is helpful. But this is all part of the PATH system. The paper PATH system is my system for organizing papers, and it's designed so the papers can flow from one part to the other logically, and so you can get your hands on any piece of paper that you need very quickly without having to take a ton of time filing and doing all of the maintenance stuff. It's as self-maintaining as possible, this paper path system. So it starts with that emergency medical folder, and the action file is the other thing that we do for your incoming papers. And then your Spark Life Binder is there for all of the other important information. We usually get that like all set up and ready, so that way as you go through old papers within the rest of the paper path system, when you're sorting, when you're filing, it's already right there for any information that you come across that you might need. So these are essential parts of the full system. Now, for the emergency medical folder, like I mentioned, this is great for doctor's appointments and for medical emergencies. So here's just one example. Heather said, after building this with me, in the ER, with my dad, and handed the emergency folder to the doctor. And he was like, wow, this is the most organized paperwork I've ever seen. Thank you, Susanna K. So like I told you, the nurses and the doctors love it. And then also first responders, when you can't communicate, this is an example. Leslie said, the emergency file, the medical folder, is so important. I suffered a coma and a stroke 6 months ago, and my family had a tough time finding all of my medical information. Now it's organized all in one place. So even if you don't have the information, if you aren't able to speak, then your family can find the information too. And then a couple of other pages that I've added into your emergency medical folder just because they're important to be able to get your hands on quickly. Quick evacuation information, mostly like home information. So emergency home situations, where is the fuse box? Where's the water shut off? Landlord's information, if that's applicable, things like that. So that way you have that at your fingertips as well. Okay, so let's look inside of the emergency medical folder really quickly, okay? Before we actually look inside, I wanted to see, I'd asked you in the comments, remember, I asked if this was your first time building an emergency medical folder, or if you're touching yours up and just making sure that it's all set up right. So Marcia said that this is her first time. Awesome, awesome. I love the first timers. Brandy, she says, I have my Spark Life Binder, but I've not started it yet. Not a problem. That's one of those things where when you can, then it's great. It is there for you, but at least it's all set up. So you don't have to do any of the really hard work. It's already done for you. That's good. Jenny says, I'm upgrading and I also have the Spark Life Binder. Yay, love that. Dee says, Dorothy from New York, my first time and I'm ready with my folder. Yay, I love it. Love it, love it. Jenny says, I'm a repeat offender. Welcome, Karen. And Melody says, yes, hers is already set up, but she says constant changes in the information is very challenging to keep up with. Yeah, I know, Melody, you've had a lot going on recently. So those constant changes can be difficult. I used to take that time waiting in the doctor's office, either waiting in the lobby to see the doctor, or once I got into the room, it takes a while before the doctor gets there. I always took that time to try to update all of the different stuffs. That way, I would try to update it as quickly as I could after or during the appointment, just to make sure to try to stay on top of it. But I know how that is when things are changing quickly. It can be rough. You're doing a great job. Lady's here and she says, it's the first time since I can't find my original. Yikes. Oh no. Well, hopefully you can have that digital copy as an original as well, and that might help you out because that's frustrating, right? Peg says, I could never remember the names of medications and dosage. I take my emergency medical folder to any doctor's appointments. Oh, I love it, right? I'm the same way. Sally says, hello. Hi, Sally. Welcome, Judy. She says, from Long Beach, she is trying to get organized. It's her first time. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. Wonderful. So we talked about how the emergency medical folder is used, right? Let's talk about what it looks like actually inside this emergency medical folder. How is it set up and kind of why, right? So when you download the emergency medical folder templates, you got all of these pages from me already when you registered. And if you didn't, then make sure to go register and you can get these pages for free. Now, you may have also added on the complex and chronic pages. So if you did, I had a special discount for adding on that expansion. That's just if you have more complex and chronic medical needs, you need to track more information, or you're just getting prepared for if you ever have to. If you did add that on, then towards the end of this session, I will talk about how to merge the two of them together, the emergency medical folder and the complex and chronic expansion. Just how, there's no right or wrong way, but I'll tell you how I do it. So keep a listen out for that. If you missed your chance to get the complex and chronic expansion, then on the challenge schedule page, there's a link for it. So if you needed those extra pages. But there we go. I realized that it said the wrong thing on there. But with the emergency medical folder download that you just got from me, this is one way that you can set up your emergency medical folder. Now, it does not matter what type of folder you use. I do like to make sure that it's easy to locate. So usually you're going to keep it in the kitchen because that is where first responders will look the most often. But if you want to do a red plastic folder, that's great. I usually say do plastic or something that is durable because this is going to hopefully last you the rest of your long, long life. And you want to make sure that no matter what happens, it can hold up. But we talked the other night, and if you missed it, there's still the replay is on the challenge schedule page, I believe. But we talked the other night about you can use like a zippered, like really nice, like this Forevermore zippered faux leather binder if you wanted something that is contained and looks like a little bit more elegant. You could use something like this linen covered binder. This one already came with all the dividers and such, which is nice. But if you wanted something like that sitting on your countertop, then that is fine. I liked this one. It has a clipboard. Or if you do have something that is more complex, or you want just an easy way to go back and forth, then you could use something like the Kaitiaki binder bag. This is what I used when I was going through some medical issues and I had to go back and forth to the doctor, multiple doctors. So this had everything, my complex and chronic, my emergency medical folder, all my records. It was just easy. So what you contain it in is completely up to you. Just think about what it is that you need. Inside the binder itself, the first page that you will have showing is that medical alert page. Now, we want this to be the first page because this is the one that talks about who is an emergency contact, who can give them more information if they need it. And I'll talk about the reason why in just a moment. But this also talks about any life-threatening allergies or conditions or special needs that they would need to know about immediately. So this is something where the doctors, the first responders, this is the first page that they'll see. So we want to make sure that they get an overview of the most essential information. Now you will find that within these templates, you're not going to be entering your driver's license copies or information or your social security number, because we don't want to put any type of information that we'd have to worry about getting into the wrong hands, because if this is going with you to the hospital or in the ambulance, it's going through a lot of hands. You just don't want to have to worry about who has your important information, right? So instead of having social security numbers, ID numbers, any kind of credit cards or anything like that, any of that really private information, pick one person, one contact person that is willing to safeguard that information for you. And first responders or the hospital, if they need it, they can call that person. And that person can verify that it's truly hospital, first responder, and release that information to them over the phone versus having it written in here. So if you're wondering why some of that information is not requested on the fill in the blank PDFs that you got, that's why. We want to make sure that you just focus on getting better or doing whatever you need medically, and you don't have to worry about what's happening with this. Now, on the first page, like I mentioned, this is where the most essential information is. Behind that, this is where you can have a separate section for each person in your household. You could do a separate folder for each person. Most of the time, though, I just do a separate section because there's not a lot of additional paperwork that goes in here. So unless you have an important reason why they would need their own folder, like maybe somebody does have a more complex medical need, in which case they might need their own folder with that complex and chronic add-on. But for the most part, you can have everybody in this one folder. So your first divider will just be whichever first person you want within that household. You're going to just label it with their name. And what I like to do, and I actually tend to use this type of divider by C-line. If you want to find any of this information, any of these products, they're on my Amazon store. The link is on the challenge schedule page. But this is the C-line. There are these window dividers. And for each person's section, I like to make sure to include a picture of them. Because by having a picture of them right at the beginning of their section, that means first responders won't wonder, is this Susanna or is this Katie? I'm not sure. They can tell from the picture. So add a picture of the person in the front of their section if you would also like to do so. But within each person's section, there will be emergency instructions. So on those first pages, you'll have your name and address information, health insurance, any additional health insurance, or if you have a letter of instruction or any type of legal health documents, it gives you a space to enter a bit of that information and where those documents are. If you want to, you can include a copy of them within your emergency medical folder. You don't have to. That's completely up to you. Then the next part, and it is designed so you can print this two-sided if you would like to. So feel free, two-sided if you want, one-sided if you prefer, up to you. But it'll also include things like, are you an organ donor? What's your blood type if you happen to know that? Who are your emergency contacts? Local ones, meaning ones that would be near you if they needed somebody to be physically near. And then also who your emergency contact would be family-wise. They don't have to live near you for that. Allergies and special conditions. These would be, you can list again the life-threatening ones. It never hurts to write that again, but this would be the less life-threatening. Are you allergic to latex or something like that? Vaccine information. So this way they know when you had your vaccines and for what. And then current medications and prescriptions. This is the page that I tend to use the most at the doctor. A lot of times I will just hand them my pages You can always print more than one of any of these pages if you need extra copies. And I definitely use more than one page, but I often just hand them that page. So you can even use like a Post-it tab or something. So you can easily flip to this page for doctor's appointments. But that's what goes into the basic emergency folder in one person's section. And then for the next person, you would do the same thing. So you would just print another set of those core documents and do that for each person within the household. And then at the very end of the emergency medical folder, you'll see that you'll need another section or two. I usually do just one for pets and home, because within that template that I gave you, you have one page that has pet information. So you can list up to 4 different pets on the pages there. If you have more, then feel free, print extra pages. But it'll have things like their name, their breed, if they have microchip ID, microchip numbers. But it also has things like special needs and notes, identifiable markings, and common hiding places. Because sometimes when there is an emergency and somebody else goes into the home, if you have a skittish pet, they might be hiding, and this will help them find where your pet might be hiding from them. And then at the very top is the pet guardian information. So if you're not able to take care of the pets, then who can take care of the pets for you? And then after that is home information. So this is where I told you about that home emergency information. So the non-emergency sheriff number, fire department, EMS, nearest emergency shelters. You might need to look a couple of these things up if you have to, like the shelters. But if you have a home alarm company, I would not put the actual PIN and such in here unless this is staying in your house. Sometimes what I will do is for these home pages, I'll actually tape them inside of my cabinets in my kitchen. But it has all of the most important information. So various contact information and all that good stuff. And then notes pages. So if you needed to take notes on anything, then there are pages for notes. And this one does not have it in, but it has in the very back a sheet where you can cut out and share. I don't think I have it here, but if you can cut out and share some, what are they called? Business card sized pieces of paper that have free emergency medical folder links on them. So if you know somebody who might want an emergency medical folder, or even I've given it to the nurses and the doctor before when I've been at the doctor's office for their patients, if anybody wanted one. There you go. It just looks like that, where you can cut them out and hand them out if you wanted to, because these emergency medical folder templates I think are really important. So I do not mind having anybody who needs it get it for free. So feel free. Share, share, share. But that is the overview of the emergency medical folder itself. So you can see a little bit more about what's inside, and now you understand what you would use it for. So if you have any questions so far, please let me know in the comments. I always want to know, make sure that I answer any questions. There's no such thing as a silly question. So feel free, ask away. Hi, Peggy Jean. She says, hi, I'm so glad to have you here. Welcome, welcome. All right. So next, one of the things that people don't necessarily ask, because it might not be the first question that comes up, but it's something that is helpful to understand, is why does this system work? Why is it designed the way that I designed it? The main reason that it's set up the way it is with these worksheets, with all the blanks, the reason that it's a fillable PDF so you can type into it if you need to. You'll save it to your computer and then open up the saved copy and type into it. You can save it. But the main reason that I do that is so you can take your brain out of the system. Because I don't know how many times I've heard, and this might sound like you even, people saying, this is something that I've meant to do forever, and I've just not gotten around to doing it. Most of the time, the reason for that is that the thought of trying to figure out everything that needs to go in to the system that could seem a little overwhelming. It seems like it's going to take forever, right? And nobody has forever amount of time in their days. At least I don't. So one of the main reasons that this system works, and it's just like I do with the Spark Life Binder, the Caregiver Binder, we have these fillable worksheets so that way you can take your brain out of the system. It's already created for you, and all you're doing is answering questions. You don't have to know what the questions are. You just have to fill in the blank. It's like a school worksheet from, in kindergarten when you just fill in the little blanks on the worksheet. Makes it so much easier that way. So the goal is to take your brain out of the system. And then also by having this type of structure, you've made your decisions first. Actually, from my experience of over 18 years as a professional organizer, I've actually made a lot of the decisions for you to make it easier. But the decisions of, okay, well, what information goes in? Where does it go? How is it formatted? What do I need? All of those decisions can feel really overwhelming and like a lot of work. So if you've made your decisions first, as in you've already created all the questions, like I've done for you on these templates, then you're just filling in the blanks. And that's the easy part, just like in school, where you're filling in the blanks instead of trying to do it all from scratch. It's also so helpful with something like your emergency medical information or your important life information, like the Spark Life Binder that I was talking about. Having something where you can quickly grab it and go is really important because there's never time to just grab your file cabinet and go with you. And a lot of times our loved ones don't know where to find the information. So the easier we can make it for you or your loved ones or first responders to quickly grab this and take it with you to the hospital or, grab a life binder, caregiver binder, and take it with you in case of an emergency, that's just a lot of peace of mind. So it works because one place, one thing that you need to grab and go. And then everybody knows where to find what's important, right? That's important too. If your loved ones have only one place to remember, they're much more likely to remember it. Versus, I don't know how many times I could tell my husband exactly where to find things in a file cabinet. I am positive in case of an emergency, he probably would not remember what I told him. But he does remember there's one place. If there's an emergency, a medical emergency, there's one place. If there's an evacuation or an emergency of any other type, medical or non, there's one place, the life binder, and it makes it so much easier. And all that similar information is together. So your brain's not trying to think of all the different places to look for something. It's all in one spot. So here's an example. Here's an example as well. I love to use other people's stories as examples for whatever I'm trying to tell. So whenever I get a chance to, I do. Jane said, I love the life binder idea. My mom passed away suddenly a couple of years ago and finding documents was a nightmare. Not going through that again. So that's just an example. Yeah, our loved ones do not always know where stuff is. So the last thing that you want is when they're stressed out in an emergency. Susie says, I've tried to make my own everything binder in the past, but never got past the first few pages. This binder is, I'm sure, a literal lifesaver. So yeah, having something just done for you, structured, you're just filling in the blanks, so much easier, right? So you made a great, great, great decision to grab your emergency medical folder, let me tell you. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. Right now is a perfect time. We're going to go on in just a moment into tips and tools to customize your emergency medical folder and make it even more amazing than it already is. So those of you who may already have your emergency medical folder built, then this is a perfect one for you as well. And hello to Karen. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you here. And then Karen with the Y, she says, sorry, we lost internet. Glad it's back. I'm glad it's back too. Wonderful. All right. So this is always the fun part now, the tips and tools to customize your emergency medical folder and make it even more amazing. So what I'm talking about with that is some of the things that you might want to include along with your emergency medical folder to just make it so much easier no matter what situation you're in. And some of those things I've got right here. So one thing that I'd like to do with the emergency medical folder, or actually there are two things that I'd like to share with you. One of them is I like to add a business card holder. You can't see it too well in this one. I'm wondering if I have one that has a better example in it, but this business card holder, this one I think has a better example, is an easy place to be able to very quickly put contact information for any of your providers, your health card, your health insurance card if you need to. So here's an example. So you see I have health insurance cards can go right in there, and any of your providers, anywhere that you get lab work done, imaging, any specialists, grab their card and just slide it into your business card holder. That way you don't have to rewrite all the contact information and you have all of it in one spot. Plus, when you're grabbing cards, if you have a provider who you want to make sure gets copies of a bunch of the imaging and maybe they aren't the one that ordered it, such as your primary care physician, it's usually helpful to make sure that they get a copy of anything that you have done. Grab extra cards of theirs, because that way when you go in for the blood work or the imaging, then you can just hand them the card and say, hey, can you make sure that this doctor also gets copies of any of the imaging or test results today? And that way you'll have the information. Sometimes you might have to fill out another form, but you've got all that information right there, so it makes it easier. And then the other thing that I add in is a pocket. This is by Oot, E-O-O-U-T. And they do a great job with their 3-ring pockets. They're very strong. And I add in at least one pocket to my emergency medical folder. So that way I can carry all sorts of extra stuff that could be really helpful in case of an emergency. Sometimes I have actually used the pockets, as you saw in my other example, as dividers as well. So these are super, super handy. There are a number of different ways that I use those. But let's talk about some of the tools that I like to use to make it even more amazing. And if you want to find any of the things that we talk about, or get the printable supply list or any of that, make sure to go to the challenge schedule page. That's SusannaK.live, not .com, but .live /challenge-schedule. And that's going to, it'll have a link to my Amazon shop that has all of these products, as well as a printable supply list if you want, and all of your replays and everything. All right, if you have any questions, remember, use that chat area. We're talking about right now how to upgrade or add and customize your emergency medical folder to make it even more amazing. So here are a few of the things. And if you forget any of these, that's okay. That's what that challenge schedule page has. When you click my Amazon link, that's also just a good reminder of the things to put into your folder, because it has that, all of those there. I like to throw a little cash into my folder, not so much cash that if it went missing, I'd be really upset, but just enough that if I needed gas, if I needed food, anything, I'd have just enough to make sure that I could get by. I also love to make sure that I have some Post-it notes, so that way I can take notes and actually attach those notes to whatever test results, doctor's notes, anything like that. And of course, if you have a notepad, you're going to need a pen. So there are actually 2 types of pens that I like to use. I keep both of them in my pockets for my emergency medical folder and for my Spark Life binder and anything like that. But I love to make sure to have a friction pen. These are those erasable pens because I want to be able to, in some places, make changes without scratching everything out, running out of space. So having a friction pen means that I can erase old information and write new information. But sometimes there's something that I want to make sure never gets erased. And that's when I grab my R2 pen. And this just, this is just a pen that has really nice feel to its writing. It's a gel pen, but any type of pen that cannot be erased it's good for those times where you want to make sure nothing happens to it. I like to add some little Post-it flags. So this way, like that medication page that I told you about that I use all the time at the doctor's, I can just flag anything that I need to be able to find quickly or go back to. I like to add some reinforcements. So these are basically just stickers. And they're stickers that you can put around the hole on a 3-hole punch piece of paper. So this way, it's just going to be that much stronger and it's less likely to rip, because some of these pages, like your prescription pages, you probably use them for quite a while. So if it starts to rip it all or get a little weaker, then you can use some of those. Then I like to also have a charger, whether iPhone, Android, doesn't matter. Just whatever your phone is, make sure to have a charger with a nice long cord. So this is a nice 6-foot long cord, and I've got the charging cube. So that way, if something happens, if there's an emergency, if they take me to the hospital, then I've got at least my charger so I can still reach other people if necessary. I like to have a highlighter. This is a friction highlighter. So just like the pens, this one can be erased with the end of it. But this way I can highlight things, especially if it's something that I want to ask my doctor about or notice on a page. And I can always erase it if I need to later, but super handy. And then finally, I like to keep a flash drive or USB drive. Some people call it a thumb drive. Whatever you want to call it, I like to keep one of these drives. And this, I keep my emergency medical folders digital version. It's usually the one that I've already typed the information into and saved, because then if I need to make a change, I don't have to wonder where I saved it. It's right there. I still have a backup of it with my computer backups, but I have the most current version that I can make changes to and print out more pages if I need to on this flash drive, so I don't have to wonder where it's at. Also, I might carry a bunch of extra lab test results, imaging results, other documents, so that way, if my doctor needs additional documents, then I can hand them the flash drive and say, I don't have them on me, but I've got them here. And in addition to that, one of our Pathfinders, CJ, came up with this idea, and it was brilliant. Just grab one of these USB to USB-C, that's the Android type of connector. Grab an adapter for USB to USB-C, just because technology changes so fast and so many different computers now don't even take the USB. So this way, if your doctor or somebody needs to access the files on there, then they can, even if they do not have a USB drive on their computer. So those are the main things that I like to put into this folder. So that way I can grab things and go if I need to. Feel free to make it your own. If there's anything else that's unique to you that you want to add it. That's perfectly fine. You can always even have more than one pocket folder, or if you've got something like, oops, I rolled over it. There we go. I got the strap stuck in my rolling leg of my chair. But you could always use something like the Kaitiaki. This is the waterproof 3-ring binder bag. If you have something like this that can hold a little bit of extra stuff, then feel free. These big pockets in the front or some of the pockets on the inside make it extra easy to carry additional things if you need to. And I know this was helpful for me, especially when I was going to so many doctors and I'd go to the hospital more often than I'd like. And even if it was a rush to the emergency room, then I had all the stuff that I needed already in the bag, plus my information. So it made it super easy. But make it your own. Do whatever is most convenient for you. Some people like to add an extra spare set of car keys and house keys into that folder. Sometimes I've heard people, and I've done it myself, add the microchip ID tags the extra tags for your pets. I also add my pet's vaccination records either in the pocket or I through hole punch it and put it with the pet information, because if you ever have to evacuate, then you have that vaccine information right there if you have to board them or take them to a shelter with you. So whatever it is that's unique to you. So tell me in the comments really quickly before we wrap up with combining the complex and chronic with the emergency medical folder and things like that. Let me know, are you ready? And are you excited to make your folder absolutely amazing now? Or do you have ideas of things that you want to do? And do you feel like you know mostly what to do and how to put it together so you can actually start using it? I would love to hear how you're feeling about this in the comments. And just remember, with the emergency medical folder, you don't have to fill it all in at once. So it is absolutely okay to take it one step at a time, one blank at a time, one page at a time. You don't have to make it into a huge project. Maybe even, every morning while you sip your coffee, you just fill in as many blanks as it takes you to finish your coffee, or do one page a week. Whatever it is, don't feel like this is something that is a massive project and a weight on your shoulders. All right, break it down in those small steps, because you've made it this far without it. Yes, it's really important to do, but if you're waiting for a huge chunk of time in order to do it, that might not happen for a long time. So taking it one small bite at a time is the best way to actually make progress. So in the comments, I see Kim says, yes, I just need to find the time and all the info, right? Well, that's not a problem. One small bite at a time. And feel free to skip around too. You don't have to go from the first blank and go in order. You can fill in just what you know to start with, and then you can go back and fill in things that you might need to look up. But yeah, I'm happy for you. Karen says that she's very excited. Yay! And Dee says, yes. Lady says, I am so ready, taking small steps. I love that. Woot, woot. Jenny says, just looked up on Amazon, a clear magnetic holder to hold the folder and place it on the side of the fridge. That's right, Jenny. This is one of the things that I just found for this time of doing this challenge. I did not have this before. I had not found this yet. So what Jenny's talking about is there's on my Amazon store, there's a pack of 4. They're huge magnet folders. They're like pockets, document pockets, I should say. And you can slide in papers. So these can stick on the side of the fridge or file cabinet or dishwasher, whatever it is that you have that's magnetic. These are fantastic. And I will say with these, you will want to make sure that your folder does not stick out too far, because the pockets, they are slightly wider than the 8.5 by 11. So this is 8.5 by 11 that's in there. But if it's too thick and wide, then it might not fit in there. The loose papers absolutely do. Or if you have a folder that's not way overstuffed and it does not have like 500 dividers sticking out, that's another thing with these C-line dividers. They don't stick out quite as much, which is nice. But as you can see, it's possible to get this in, but it's not quite like as easy as a quick grab in and out once you have stuff sticking out the side. So for the folders, I still love the magnetic holders. I would just say make sure not to get anything that's sticking out too far, and don't overstuff your pocket that's in it. And then it fits perfectly. Or you could always have a separate, like those mesh pockets. Like, here we go. You could always have your information, for the first responders, and maybe one of these smaller pockets by Oot. These are perfect for checks, like receipts, checks, coupons, things like that. But they could also be really good for just holding some things to go quick grab with your folder. You could keep that in the back, or you could get one of the bigger ones. You're just going to have to probably fold it over so that it'll fit. And probably take the label out. Has a label in it. There we go. But you might have to fold it over so it'll fit with some of your information in it. But yes, these magnetic folders are so wonderful. I have thought of 5 kajillion different ways to use them. And yeah, they're just so fun. I want to have magnets all over. So there you go. Yes, I hope you enjoy those, Jenny. Karen says, thank you for doing this. You are so welcome. Thank you for actually like putting forth this effort to have all of this together and protect yourself and your family. That's just wonderful. I love it. You're doing great work, Karen. And Karen with an E says, I'm ready to get started. Yay. Susan says, I have a divider for each provider and added the last doctor's printout in the provider section. Perfect. If that's what works best for you, I love it. I love it. Good job, Susan. Marcia says, excited to get this info together in one place. I had a medical crisis with my mom earlier this year, and this would have been so helpful, right? Yeah. Well, now you are going to be so prepared. You're not going to have to worry about that ever again. And N says, thank you for sharing all your great ideas to get started. You're so welcome. Karen says, I print out a synopsis of each family's medical problems, meds, doctors, allergies, and ID and insurance hard copies or card copies. The side of the fridge would be a perfect place for it. Great idea. Yay. Yeah, these were definitely one of my really, really favorite finds for the year. And it takes a lot to become one of my favorites, but they've done it. All right, so what if you have the complex and chronic expansion? Now, remember that complex and chronic expansion, that is the expansion that it goes more in depth into some different aspects of your medical needs. So let me share my screen and walk you through this complex and chronic. Let me see if I can pull up. All right, so this is how if it was me, which I did for myself, this is how I combined the two, the complex and chronic and the emergency medical folder. So let me share my screen. There we go. Sorry, I'm trying to find if it'll let me do it this way or if I have to move it around. Let me do it like this. So with the complex and chronic, what I do with the digital version is unless you have like the paid version of Adobe Acrobat, which is the PDF program, unless you have the paid version, you can't really combine the PDFs into one. There's just not a program that I know of that reliably does that. But what you can do is create a folder. So I like to create one folder, and that one folder, I like to, oops, sorry. Trying to talk and do this, and sometimes I have to pause. That one folder, I do like to label that as the emergency medical folder, and then the pages inside of it, those can be the two files. So they might not be all combined into one file unless you have like Adobe Acrobat, but then you can at least have them all in one folder. And it's nice because that way you can also have any sort of backup information that's like digital information that you've scanned. And that makes it very helpful. So let me go back to where you are. Nope. There we go. All right. So that's how I deal with the digital file of the complex and chronic. If enough people really feel strongly that they would like to have a completely separate file that has them all combined, then just let me know and I can put that together. I've just found that most people have been absolutely fine with putting them all in the same folder and using that folder as the main area. So that's what they've done. I'm just making a hot mess of all of this. There we go. All right, I'm back. I see you again. This is good. We're getting there. So, and this way you can also see what's in the complex and chronic expansion. So if you aren't sure if it's something that's useful for you, then this is actually a great time for you to be able to see what all would be included in it. So, and then you can go to the challenge schedule page if it's something you need. Oh, really quickly in the comments, Karen says, where do you find the magnetic folders pouch? I have it in my Amazon store. So the Amazon store, there's a specific list for the emergency medical folder supplies. Let me just share the store link with you in the chat. Okay, so I just shared my Amazon store link in the chat area, and I'll put it in on the screen really quickly as well. But if you ever need it, when you go to the challenge schedule page, then you can see the Amazon store will be there as well with all the supplies. The link for it's there as well if you need it. So good question. Okay. So this is how I have combined the complex and chronic and the emergency medical folder. If you decide that you wanted the complex and chronic expansion, I do have it in the challenge schedule page. There's a link there for it where you can grab it. But when you first open your complex and chronic expansion, then you will see that you will have a page that tells you some suggestions for how to combine the two, your complex and chronic and your emergency medical folder. And it kind of just gives you a little brief breakdown of how to print it out and get through it so it's not quite so stressful. Both of these can be printed, again, like I said, double-sided, so that should not affect a thing. So your emergency medical folder, that's the one that you already have, whether you got it when you purchased the Spark Life Binder or you signed up and registered for the challenge and this is the template you got. And that has all of the different pages that I already went through. So it's got your basic emergency instructions, allergies and conditions, vaccine information, current medications and prescriptions, pet emergency information, and home emergency information. And then it has, on that same checklist that came with it, it has a list of some ideas of different things that you might want to put in a pocket folder or add to the various sections. So then the complex and chronic medical folder, this is the one that has information if you have more, like pretty much if you have more to track with your medical information. So with the complex and chronic, a lot of times I like to make these different divider sections. That's one option. And then in a separate logs folder, I put the log sheets and we'll walk through what that looks like. But these are the things in the complex and chronic. It would have the medication schedule, so you can keep track of what medications when, your history for your medication and supplements, appointments. You can have one page, actually, is what I did, one page of ones that need to be set and one page of ones that are already set if you have a lot to keep track of. Medical and important events log, so important things that have happened medically. Did, dislocated your knee, had surgery on it, went to the ER for a reason. And you can just kind of keep a log of what happened when. Imaging and test notes. So if you got an MRI, an X-ray, blood work, anything like that. You can have all the notes and the results in one section. And it has a little log where you can do kind of a quick summary of this date, had this, showed this, and family medical history. So this is just really helpful sometimes when, the doctor says, is there anyone in your family who? Sometimes we don't always remember. So that has everything written down for you, or you can fill it out yourself. It has everything in a space so you can fill it out without having to think so hard. And then, of course, notes. And then as far as logs, there are some log pages that are kind of grids that you can fill in. So monitoring of symptoms and changes, if there's anything that you need to track with that. Medical bill and insurance tracking log. Now, this one is one that a lot of people really, really appreciate, because just trying to keep track of what bills came in for what was approved, what was not, that tracking log is worth its weight in gold. It's so helpful. And then dated notes. So if you have like doctor's appointment notes or anything like that you wanted to be able to keep notes along with specific dates, there's a specific pages for that, and then notes. And then it has a list of some things that you might want to include in either a pocket folder or in that section that would make sense with it. So when you're combining these, one of the things that I like to do is I still start off in my main folder, whether it's your red folder or bag, whatever it is. But in this main folder that you will leave on the countertop, either like near the toaster or on top of the fridge, in the magnetic pocket, whatever it is. So first responders can also find it. You're going to want that first page to be that medical alert page. That's where it has all that life-threatening allergies and conditions, special needs, all of that good stuff. And then after that, on the other side, if you're printing this double-sided, then it would be a notes page. So sometimes if there's a blank page or a notes page, it's just because I want to make sure that it can be printed double-sided and not cause any problems. Then emergency instructions. A lot of this is just like the emergency medical folder in the beginning part. So you'll have your emergency medical folder parts with the emergency instructions, all that basic medical info, your allergies and conditions, including the non-life-threatening, vaccines, all the vaccine information, what you had when, current medications and prescriptions, because you want those to be separate from ones that were in the past. And then, of course, your pet emergency information. Make sure to fill out for your pets and information about home emergencies. And then after the home emergency portion and the notes, then generally you're going to have the wrap-up pages that we talked about, the cutouts to share if you want. And then a lot of times I like to put the complex and chronic pages, all those charts and logs and history information that you might not need for the doctor's appointment itself, but you might, and you would be filling these in more often. So you want to have these more like at your fingertips. I like to put those in a separate binder or folder. And really quickly, before I show you the rest of these, wrong way. There we go. So one of the things I like to do when I was going through all of the more complex medical stuff, I use the Kaitiaki binder. And within this one of the things I really liked was that I could slide out the 3-ring binder. So I could have all of my log sheets on my countertop, and I could just have them flipped around and have whatever log sheet I needed. So if I was tracking symptoms and changes, I can have that sheet just on my countertop so I could fill it out without having the whole big binder right there with it on my countertop, right? You could do that either with something like the Kaitiaki binder, or you get to just have one of the nice binders that I talked about earlier. There we go. Put this back. Oh, and really quickly, when I go to the doctor's appointment, then I'd take my binder that I was tracking all the log sheets with, And then in the Kaitiaki thing, it has this nice big 2-slot section. And that's where I just grab the rest of my emergency medical folder and slide it right in. So that way I do not have to worry about merging them or anything like that. But for your complex and chronic part, you could choose to use something like, the linen binder or the leather, that fake leather binder. And you could use that in order to hold the log sheets as well. So that way you don't have your whole emergency medical folder open on your countertop all the time while you're tracking changes. I just wanted to share that really quickly with you. But back to this. Oh, I can take that off. There we go. Okay, so like I said, this is kind of the part that I would put into a separate binder. We've got that tracking charts and logs. So it starts off with medications and supplements history. So these are the ones that it would include what you're taking now if you want to, but it would be all the stuff that you took in the past. And a lot of times I like to include why you stopped taking it in the notes section. So that way, you have a record of, yes, I've tried that before, didn't work, had a reaction, didn't need it. And it's just really helpful for the doctors to know what you've tried in the past. Then it has the medical and important events. So these are the things like I broke my leg in, October 94, and any type of special event. I got really sick with a strange sickness for 2 weeks on June 2006, whatever it is. But you can put the date, the description of what happened, and then some details about it. So that way, if anything is important that might be relevant to a past event, then it's really helpful to have. And then this is the imaging and test notes. I like to have kind of that overview of, this is the type, I got a CAT scan, a CT scan, and I got it on, September 3rd, 2003. And the results were, they noticed that there was an abnormality in the frontal lobe, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm making stuff up that might not even make sense. But this way you can have kind of that synopsis of all the different blood work, imaging, and just a quick little bit about the results of those images and blood work. And then if you needed it, you could have either on your flash drive or printed out behind it. You could have the actual results of the testing. And then this is a much more in-depth family medical history. So this is the part where you can just go through and mark, who had what, and any notes like that. If they have anything aside from the normal questions that you're asked about, and there's space to enter that in. And then there's even a couple pages to go into even more detail about, date of birth, date of death, cause of death, diseases, chronic conditions, mental health disorders for all of the immediate family. And then, of course, notes pages. And then this is a lot more the log section. So it's up to you whether the other pages that we just went through go in the emergency medical folder part or the log folder part. A lot of times I just keep it all in the logs, but I like to start with appointments. So this is really handy to have out on your countertop for when the doctor calls and you can schedule that appointment. Then you can just write it down right then or see what you need to schedule. Daily medication schedule. This will be for you or your loved ones. This is similar to what's in the caregiver binder. And you can just list out what medications are taken when and any special notes. Monitoring of symptoms and changes. Now I left what the symptoms or changes were that you're monitoring. I left those blank at the top of the page on purpose because I wanted to make sure that you can monitor whatever it is that you need. But you can fill in each day of the week, and then you can use one of these pages per week. Medical bill and insurance tracking. So you can keep track of the date of service, the amount you paid, the insurance, if the insurance is paid, all of that good stuff. And then dated notes. I used this most often when I was at a provider's office. I'd write the date, I'd write the name of the provider on the left-hand side, and then the right side, I'd write out all the stuff that they told me, because I will never remember all of that with so many different providers that I went to. So that's what I used my dated notes for, but you can use it for whatever it is that you might need. You can also use some dated notes pages for talking to insurance companies about various bills and keeping track of, okay, well, these are the conversations we had. Whatever you need these for, they're there for you. So that is how I handle the complex and chronic and the emergency medical folder. They're already pretty much in that order, so you can kind of just merge them together if you would like to. You don't have to. Feel free to move things around, make it your own, do what works best for you. Everybody is different, and you are probably have a different situation than anybody else. So feel free to move things around, change things however you need it to be. Okay, so he says, is the caregiver binder within the Spark Life binder? Within that audio, that makes sense. Is the caregiver binder within the Spark Life binder? It's not. It's actually a separate binder, because the Spark Life binder is all about just managing all of your life information. So it has, assets, insurances, finance, medical history, digital life, all that kind of stuff. So that's what the Spark Life binder is for. Now the caregiver binder, actually it's right there. It's digital only right now. That goes into basically keeping track of all that is necessary for caring for somebody, whether it is, maybe a special needs child or an older loved one. It does not matter. But it has, actually, let me just grab it. So this is more focused on the actual caregiving of that person. So it has their basic information, but it also has, let's see if it has the main table of contents. Here we go. I'll just show you the table of contents real quick. Because if you're a caregiver, then one of the concerns a lot of times is if something happened and, you decided to go away to Tahiti on vacation and not tell anybody for 6 months, or if you ended up having to go to the hospital or something, making sure that that care can be consistent and everybody's on the same page. Or if you have other caregivers come in, making sure that everybody's communicating right. That's some of the most important part of the caregiver binder. But like you can see, it's got basic information. This is basic information about the dependent. It's just called the dependent, whoever you're caring for, throughout the binder. But it has, their basic information, contact information, relatives, a description of them, and friends and other contacts. And then their health details. So a lot of this is similar to what's in the emergency medical folder, but it has additional parts such as adaptive devices and equipment. Let's see. There's just various things that are added in that are more specific for somebody that you might be a caregiver for. And then their health provider contacts, and then care overview. So that would be a lot of times that has to do with keeping them comfortable. What were their routines? What are their likes and dislikes? What are anything specific to them? So abilities, skills they're working on, triggers and calming, nonverbal communication that they might use, likes and dislikes, trusted businesses and services. This is really helpful if it's somebody who might have a different mental capabilities. What hairdresser do they trust? Because you don't want to bring them to the wrong one and they're not comfortable there, things like that. What ice cream shop, that type of thing. And then there's caregivers and care checklist. So if you have other people helping out, then it has a checklist of these things need to be done, these things have been done, who's in charge of what. It has tracking charts and logs there's more of them than in the chronic and complex. medication and supplements, legal documents that are specific to caregiving and caregiving health, and then notes and resources. So the caregiver one, as you can see, is very much focused on the world of the dependent and communication about the dependent's routines and making them comfortable and what needs to be done and by who. The life binder is simply your normal life information that you might need to get your hands on at any time. And then the emergency medical folder with the complex and chronic is for yourself or, loved ones in the household that are not necessarily a dependent, or special needs or anything like that. So hopefully that helps clarify the difference between them. I know that sometimes it can seem a little confusing, but let me know if that's clear. If you have any questions, I would be glad to answer anything. And yeah, good question though. I love it. All right. So that wraps up the complex and chronic and emergency medical folder, adding them together. Like I mentioned with the digital files, I just save those 2 digital files in one folder. That's basically called emergency medical documents or emergency medical folder. And then I can also add in any additional documents that I want to include, such as scans of imaging tests or anything like that. So it just, that one folder becomes my go-to place. And if you have multiple people that you are saving the documents for, feel free. You can have, emergency medical folder for, mom, emergency medical folder for me, emergency medical folder for my sister, whatever it is, people in the household, you can just save a copy of the file for each person because each person is going to need all of that filled out anyway. So just save multiple copies within your folder if you need to. Oh, good. Brandy says, yes, it helps. Thank you. You are so welcome. Absolutely. She says, I definitely need that. I have a special needs son. Yes. And actually, the caregiver binder is something that I developed along with a lot of help from my community manager, Stephanie. You've probably heard Stephanie, seen her in the Facebook group, or if you've emailed, she might have gotten to answer you before I could get to it. She's fantastic. She has a special needs son as well. And she helped make sure to get all of this really in depth. And yeah, and the caregiver binder also has special additional extensions that come with it. They're not extra. They just automatically come with it for things like Alzheimer's, autism, things like that. So if you have any of those situations, then there's some additional pages that can be inserted in there specifically for specific situations. I don't know if that's clear, but I'm getting tongue-tied. Susan says, before you leave your doctor's office visit, ask for a copy of your visit notes from the doctor. Absolutely. I am so glad my doctor actually automatically gives me those notes each time, even though they're also in the MyChart, that online service, which is so handy. I use this along with MyChart, so that way if I don't have all the things in MyChart, if there's anything missing, then I have it all on hand as well. But whenever he gives me that paper, then that's a lot of times that's what I'll use in order to update various things within my emergency medical folder, notes and things like that. Sometimes I'll even keep that document itself so I can just have it all right in the past appointments information, where I have the past appointments and the notes and all of that. I can just pop that right in there if I need to and add additional notes to it as well. It is so handy that they have those now, right? So yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up, Susan. All right. Well, there we go. Hopefully you feel like you have a really good handle on what we're doing this week. If you've not already registered for the Emergency Medical Folder Challenge, then please make sure that you do share it with a friend if you'd like. It is absolutely free. So the more the merrier. We also will have, those are the wrong dates, but we will have the Important Papers Workshop. It is actually, the registration page link is on that challenge schedule page. The Important Papers Workshop is where I will teach you how you can build your own life binder. So if you've not already attended one of those, then make sure check out the challenge schedule page, because that is where you can register for the free Important Papers workshop to learn how to build your own life binder. And you can also, at the end of it, if you're interested, you can grab the Spark Life Binder if you don't want to do the work of building your own. Either way, highly, highly useful workshop. And I recommend signing up if you've never been. If you have been in the past, you can absolutely attend again. Nothing has changed. So it's still going to be the same as what you've seen before, but I know a lot of people like to watch it again and revisit all of it. That is okay too. So you can register again if you'd like. Thank you, lady. Big love to you too. But keep on being amazing. After you are done with this, then you are going to have a complete and awesome emergency medical folder. You will be prepared for any type of medical emergency. It just feels so good. And then if you stop by and join me for the Important Papers workshop, then you'll learn how to put together a life binder. And that's where all the rest of that piece comes from. Just knowing that we can get our hands on the information we need as soon as we need it really quickly, and that our loved ones can too. If you are a caregiver, having that same type of thing with the caregiver binder, it's all about knowing that you can access the information that you need and that your loved ones can too quickly, no matter what. That makes such a difference. You'll just sleep better at night and you will just feel more confident, and so will your family. So you are doing amazing, amazing things. Keep it up. Stop by the challenge schedule page, see if there's anything you've missed. You can watch the replays if you need to. And I will see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night won't be quite as long of a live, but I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, and keep it up. I'll see you over the Facebook group. I love you so much. Keep taking those small steps. Bye, beautiful.